Jake stood in the grand alien hall, sweating under the bright lights. Tall stone pillars reached the ceiling, carved with strange symbols. Alien guards watched him silently. Their eyes glowed faintly red. And standing in front of him was her lady, Virel, the vampire-like ambassador from the planet V-Ratha. She was beautiful in a terrifying way. Her silver hair flowed down her back like liquid metal. Her skin was pale as moonlight, and her eyes were deep crimson. She wore black armor that looked more like art than battle gear. Jake was nervous. He was just a human diplomat, sent here to make peace. But this meeting felt more like a trap. Lady Virel stepped closer. Her heels clicked on the polished floor. She looked directly into Jake's eyes and said in her deep, musical voice, "You have courage, human. That is rare." Jake smiled nervously, trying to lighten the mood. Double quotes. "Well, you're kind of cute for a space vampire." The room went completely silent. Virel blinked. Slowly. Her eyes widened, just slightly. The guards didn't move. Even. The translator device beeped in confusion. Jake laughed awkwardly. "I mean, elegant, strong. You've got style." Virel tilted her head. Her sharp fangs showed slightly as she gave a small smile. "You speak the bonding words?" Jake frowned. "The what?" She stepped even closer. "In my culture, to call a V-Rathan noble cute is no small thing. It is not a compliment. It is a proposal." Jake's mouth dropped open. "Wait, what?" "No. I didn't mean." She raised a finger to silence him. "Do not fear. I accept." That night, Jake sat in his guest room, head in his hands. "This can't be happening," he muttered. His translator eyes floated beside him, flashing red. "Warning. Diplomatic error detected. Cultural misunderstanding has reached 92% threat level." "No kidding," Jake groaned. The AI continued. "The phrase 'kind of cute' in V-Rathan high speech is a sacred bonding phrase. It is spoken only between mates." Jake stood up and paced. "I was trying to be nice. That's all. I didn't mean to propose marriage." Suddenly, the door opened. Two tall alien guards stood outside. "Lady Virel requests your presence," one said. Jake gulped. "Now?" They nodded. The hallway was filled with glowing vines and walls that shimmered like water. Jake walked between the guards, heart pounding. They led him to a circular room with a pool of glowing blue liquid in the center. Virel stood beside it, holding a small silver blade. "What is this?" Jake asked. "The marking ritual," Virel said softly. "To seal our pact." Jake held up his hands. "Wait, this is a mistake. I didn't mean to propose." Virel looked at him carefully. "So, you lie?" Jake froze. Around him, the guards stiffened. Virel's voice was calm but cold. "In my world, lying is worse than war. Say the truth. Human, do you wish to break our bond before it even begins?" Jake swallowed hard. "No, I just didn't understand." She studied him, then slowly lowered the blade. "I see," she said. "You did not know, but now you do. And still, you came when I called. That means something." Jake looked at her. Her voice was strong, but he could see something behind her eyes, something almost fragile. "You're serious about this?" he said quietly. "Yes," she replied. "V-Rathans do not bond easily. We live long lives. We do not waste time with false hearts." Jake didn't know what to say. He had come here to talk about peace treaties, not alien marriage. But he had to admit he had called her cute, even if it was a joke. And now? He was part of something he didn't understand. "I need time," Jake said. Virel nodded. "Time you shall have. But the bond is already seen. Many will watch you now. Many will expect much. As Jake left the room, he realized something terrifying. This wasn't just a misunderstanding anymore. In her world, people were watching. In her world, he had already proposed, and in her eyes, he had already become hers. Jake sat up in bed with a gasp. His neck was burning, not with pain, but with heat. Like something inside his skin was glowing. He rushed to the mirror. Under his ear, just above the collarbone, was a strange mark like silver ink burned into his flesh. It shimmered in the light and pulsed faintly, almost like it was alive. What the hell? He whispered. The mark hadn't been there last night. Jake tapped his Kung device. What is this thing on my neck? The floating translator orb buzzed awake. Analyzing. Confirmed. Mark of binding. Veruthan ceremonial symbol. Status. Claimed. Jake's eyes widened. Claimed? What do you mean, claimed? In Veruthan culture, the AI said calmly, this mark is given during the early stage of a bonding union. It is assigned to others that you are not to be approached romantically or politically. You are spoken for. Jake groaned, and Guy buried his face in his hands. I didn't even say yes. Just then, the door chimed. A familiar voice followed. Good morning, husband. Lady Virel stood in the doorway, tall and composed, holding a dark crystal tray with 2 cups of glowing liquid. I brought you morning bloodleaf tea, she said. It helps with the bonding process. Jake forced a smile. That's thoughtful. She stepped inside and sat near him on the edge of the bed. The room grew tense. I noticed the mark has appeared, she said, her red eyes focused on his neck. It means your body has accepted the bond. Jake stared at her. I didn't agree to anything, Virel. She tilted her head. You came to the ritual. You stood before me. You allowed me to speak the words without interruption. Your presence was consent. I was confused. Jake said, your culture moves fast. Virel looked hurt. For the first time, her confident face cracked. Is that a human way of saying you regret me? No, Jake said quickly. This isn't how humans do things. There was a long pause. Then she said quietly, I see. Later that day, Jake tried to walk through the palace gardens, hoping for fresh air and clear thoughts. He didn't make it far. Alien guards were everywhere. Every hallway he passed had at least 2 watching him. Some nodded in respect. Some bowed. He overheard 2 Veruthan attendants whispering, That's him, the bonded human. She's chosen him? He must be special. Jake sighed. This was getting worse by the minute. At the far side of the garden, he saw a group of alien diplomats arrive from another planet. Their eyes locked on the glowing mark on Jake's neck. One of them, a tall lizard-like woman, snorted. So she finally chose a mate, she said. A soft one. Jake raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? The alien diplomat sneered. She must be desperate. Before he could reply, Virel appeared beside him like a shadow. Her voice was ice. Do not speak of my bondmate that way. The alien woman backed down, eyes wide. Jake looked at Virel, surprised. You defended me. Virel turned to him. You are mine now, and mine are protected, always. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling of his room, the silver mark on his neck glowing faintly in the dark. He didn't know how he'd ended up in this position. He hadn't meant to flirt. He hadn't meant to bond. But now the entire palace, maybe the entire planet, believed he belonged to her. And the scariest part? A small part of him didn't hate it. There was something about the way Virel looked at him. Like he mattered. Like she saw something in him, even he didn't see in himself. But he also knew one thing for sure. He had to figure out how to fix this, before it went too far. Jake waited until the palace lights dimmed. Midnight on Viratha. No footsteps. No guards. He moved quietly, wearing a black cloak over his human clothes. His mission: escape the palace and contact Earth Command. He reached the main door and found it already open. Standing there was a tall alien guard, smiling calmly. "Going somewhere, bondmate?" Jake froze. "Yeah. Just for a walk?" The guard chuckled. "A husband shouldn't wander alone. It makes the lady nervous." Jake was trapped that every hallway had eyes. Every corner had guards. Some were polite, some were suspicious. But all of them had the same goal: keep the human safe. And in place, even the birds seemed to follow him. He was the most watched man on the planet. That morning, during breakfast, he tried to ask Virel for space. "Virel, can I get a communication line to Earth? Just for a bit?" She looked up from her crystal cup. "Why?" Jake smiled. "Just want to check in. Tell them I'm not married yet." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You are bonded." "There is no yet, only now." Jake's smile faded. Later, he asked the palace assistant bot for a private terminal. It replied, "All off-world communication requests must be approved by Lady Virel." Jake sighed. "She really owns everything here." The bot blinked. "She does not own you, sir. She chose you. There is difference." He rolled his eyes. "Feels the same." That evening, Jake tested the limits again. He walked toward the outer garden gate alone, quiet, hoping the guards would be distracted. He made it halfway across the field before a soft voice stopped him. "Leaving without saying goodbye?" Virel stepped out from behind a glowing tree. Jake nearly jumped. "How are you always one step ahead of me?" "I don't sleep much," she said with a smile, "and I can smell your fear." He laughed nervously. Comforting. She stepped closer, but her expression was serious now. "Why do you want to leave me?" Jake looked down. "Because this isn't real. I made a mistake. You think I meant something I didn't." There was silence. Then she said softly, "I don't care." Jake blinked. "What?" "I don't care how it started," Morel said. "I only care about what it means now." He stared at her. She wasn't angry. She wasn't threatening him. She just looked hurt. "I've never had a bond," she whispered. "I've ruled. I've fought. I've spilled blood. But I've never had someone who stayed." Jake was quiet for a long time. "You're scary," he finally said. "But not in the way I thought." Virel nodded slowly. "I can be many things. Just don't lie to me. Don't run from me." The next morning, Jake tried something new. He walked into the royal hall openly. He didn't hide. He didn't sneak. He stood before the council and asked, "What would happen if I refused the bond?" Gasps filled the chamber. An older alien spoke. "It would be a public insult to Lady Virel. You would humiliate her in front of all Viratha." Another added, "It could start a political crisis. Or war." Jake clenched his jaw. So even saying no had consequences. He walked out with his mind racing. In his room, Jake stood in front of the mirror again, staring at the mark on his neck. It wasn't just a symbol anymore. It was a lock. He had one choice now: learn to understand her or tear down everything between their worlds. And running? Running was no longer an option. Asterisk, the two moons of Via Ratha turned red. Not orange, not pink, blood red. Jake stood at the window of his chamber, staring at the sky. He had seen alien sunsets, alien storms, even alien wars. But nothing made his skin crawl like this. Behind him, soft footsteps approached. "It begins," Virel said. Jake turned. She wore a long dark robe broidered with silver threads. Her silver hair was tied back, and her eyes glowed gently in the moonlight. "What begins?" he asked. She stepped closer. "The binding." They took him to the temple. A silent crowd had gathered outside the palace, thousands of Virathans, nobles, and commoners alike. Every eye followed him. He was dressed in ceremonial black, trimmed with gold. A single band of crimson silk ran across his chest, Virel's house color. The air was thick with perfume and power. Jake whispered to his AI, "Please tell me this is just a symbolic event." The AI replied calmly, "According to records, the binding is an ancient ritual, half cultural, half spiritual, very real, very permanent." "Wonderful," Jake muttered. Inside the temple, everything was made of obsidian and light. Glowing symbols floated in the air. Strange music played from hidden walls. A tall priest with 6 eyes greeted them. Lady Virel stood beside Jake, hands folded. "Tonight," the priest spoke, "we witness a sacred union between the strongest of our kind and the bravest of another." Jake leaned over. "Wait, did he just say union?" Virel gently took his hand. "Don't run." "I wasn't going to," Jake whispered. "I'm just really sweaty right now." As the ritual began, Virel held a silver cup to Jake's lips. "It is only blood leaf," she said. "It helps you feel open." Jake drank. It was warm and bitter, but oddly calming. Then the priest raised the blade. Jake's heart raced. "Okay, now I'm worried," he said. Virel touched his face. Gently, "It's not for you." The priest cut his own palm and let the dark blood drip into the light. The symbols around them shimmered. The crowd began chanting in whispers. Jake's head felt light. The floor shifted. Or maybe his mind did. Then she spoke. "I bind myself to this one," Virel said aloud, her voice echoing across the room. "Not by force, not by fear, but by choice." All eyes turned to Jake. The priest nodded at him. "Speak." Jake's mouth went dry. He looked at Virel, then at the glowing mark on his neck. He could say no. He could break it here. But her eyes, they didn't just glow with power now. They glowed with hope. And something else, something he couldn't quite name. Jake took a deep breath. "I didn't understand what this meant before," he said, voice shaking. "But now, I think I do." She doesn't want control. She wants someone who chooses her back. He looked at Virel. "I don't know what the future looks like, but I'm here, and I won't run." The mark on his neck flared with bright silver light. The crowd gasped. The priest spoke. "It is done." That night, after the ceremony, Virel and Jake walked alone through the moonlit palace gardens. For the first time, there were no guards following. "You surprised me," she said softly. Jake smiled. "I surprised myself." She paused near a tree of glowing flowers. "I have killed for my people. I have ruled in silence. I never thought I would hope again." Jake looked at her. "You're not just a warrior, or a vampire, or a leader." She raised an eyebrow. "Then what am I?" He took her hand. "You're someone. And that's enough for me." She didn't answer. She just smiled and didn't let go. She kissed him in front of everyone. It was slow, silent, and full of meaning, at least to her. To Jake, it felt like the whole world had stopped breathing. Then came the real shock. The room erupted. The royal hall was packed with Virithan nobles, allies, and even off-world ambassadors. Jake had only meant to make a simple speech, a thank you for the ceremony, maybe a joke or two. But as he stepped down from the platform, Virel had taken his hand, pulled him close, and kissed him. A deep, formal, ancient-style kiss. Right in front of the High Council. Jake's mind went blank. The room burst into whispers, then shouts. Across the hall, an alien noble stood up. "This is unacceptable." The being growled. That bond was not recognized by the Galactic Circle. Another hissed. She chose a human over our own kind. This is betrayal. Jake took a step back. Okay, what just happened? Varel stood tall, unbothered. I sealed the bond. You what? In front of our world. And theirs, she said calmly. Now they cannot challenge us, unless they wish for war. Jake felt his legs weaken. This isn't what I wanted. You said you were here, she replied, that you wouldn't run. Was that a lie? Jake stared at her. No. But I didn't think one kiss would nearly start a galactic war. Varel looked away. Now you see how much your choice matters. Back. In his room, Jake paced back and forth. I explain this, he said. The floating translator beeped. In Virathan custom, a public kiss after the binding ceremony is a claim of authority. It means both partners are united in blood, purpose, and rule. Jake stopped walking. Rule? I'm not trying to rule anything. It is also seen as a message, the AI added, to enemies, to rivals, to former suitors. Jake rubbed his face. Great. Now I've insulted half her empire by accident. Later. That night, he was summoned to a private meeting. 3 high-ranking aliens waited for him, their eyes cold. You must undo the kiss, one said. Jake blinked. Undo it? You want me to unkiss her? You must deny the bond, another. Added, publicly, or else alliances will fall. Blood may spill. Jake hesitated. And if I refuse? They said nothing, but their silence was loud. Varel found him afterward, sitting by the edge of the temple pool. They threatened you, didn't they? She asked. Jake nodded. They want me to deny the kiss. And will you? Jake looked at the water. It's not that simple. She sat beside him. For a moment, neither spoke. Then she said softly, I've lived hundreds of years, seen planets burn. I've buried friends, soldiers, even family. I thought I would die alone. Jake looked at her. And now? Now you've made me hope. She whispered. And that hope, makes me dangerous. Jake smiled sadly. You already were. Asterisk, he stood up. I don't know what I'm doing, Varel. I don't know how this ends. But I won't deny you. She looked up at him. Then, we stand together. No, he said. We start together. He held out his hand. She took it. Asterisk. Jake stood alone in the quiet garden, holding something small in his hand. It wasn't a ring. It was a single silver flower, one that only bloomed on Via Rafa during the red moon, and he was about to give it to a vampire who thought she already owned his heart. But this time, it would be his choice. Jake had spent the last hour walking the palace paths, thinking. Everything that had happened, the kiss, the bond, the ceremony, had started from one small joke. One clumsy compliment. He had been trapped by misunderstanding. But something had changed. Varel had defended him. She had protected him, respected his words, and stood beside him even when the galaxy laughed. She could have forced him. She never did. She simply waited. Now, Jake realized something he hadn't seen before. She didn't want power over him. She wanted to be chosen. That night, he walked into her chamber without warning. Varel was alone, seated at her long black table, reviewing glowing maps of disputed star systems. When she looked up, her face was calm but unreadable. Back to escape again? She asked softly. Jake shook his head. No, I'm here to stop running. He placed the flower on the table in front of her. Her red eyes narrowed slightly. You know what this means, don't you? He nodded. It's not part of your culture. It's not tradition. It's just me. A human gesture. Varel picked up the flower gently, as if it might break. You brought this by choice? She asked. I did. And you understand what you are offering? Jake stepped closer. Not just partnership, not just peace. I'm offering me, all of me, without mistakes this time. Virel stood slowly. She didn't smile. She didn't speak. She walked to him, looked him in the eyes, and dropped the flower. Then she kissed him. Later, the palace glowed brighter than it ever had. Alien lights shone across towers and halls. Word spread fast. The human has proposed. The human has accepted her. Truly. In the temple courtyard, High Council members gathered again, not to argue, but to witness. This time, there were no protests. No angry voices. Only silence ... and respect. ***. Jake stood with Virel in front of the same six-eyed priest. You understand the bond now, human? The priest asked. Jake looked at Virel. Yes, he said. She's not what I expected. She's more. The priest raised his staff. Then let the stars write your union. After the second ceremony, Jake and Virel stood in the garden again, just as they had after the first. You did not have to do this, she said quietly. I know. Then why did you? Jake looked up at the stars. Because I thought it was a mistake, but it wasn't. It just started the wrong way. I want this you, not by accident, not because of pressure, but because it feels ... right. Virel took his hand and placed it over her heart. You are brave, human, she whispered. You gave me what no other dared. What's that? She smiled for real this time. Love without fear. This time, he kissed her first. Not out of panic, not by mistake, not under pressure. He kissed her because he wanted to. And in that moment, the bond between a human and a Vrathan vampire became something the galaxy had never seen before. The palace gardens were glowing under soft white starlight. It was the day of the Unity Festival, a celebration that hadn't happened in over 200 years. Jake stood by a fountain made of crystal stone, wearing dark robes with silver threads, the official mark of a bonded consort. Virel stood beside him, dressed in royal armor polished to a mirror shine, but without her sword today. She wasn't a warrior. She was a partner. Leaders from dozens of worlds gathered in the Great Hall. For the first time, humans and Vrathans sat at the same table. No one argued. No one walked out. Instead, they raised their cups in silence as Jake and Virel walked in, side by side, fingers lightly touching. The six-eyed priest, now a familiar face, spoke to the crowd. This bond was not written in history. It was not planned, but it was real. It was tested, doubted, even mocked. And still, it remained. After the speeches ended, Virel took Jake's hand and led him back to the garden. A quiet place, a peaceful place. She knelt near the rose vine bush that Jake had planted days ago. On Vratha, roses were rare. Alien soil didn't like soft things. But this one had grown slowly, stubbornly. Like Jake himself. It had only one bloom. A blood-red rose with silver tips. She touched the petals. Strange that something so soft can survive in our world. Jake smiled. Sounds familiar. She looked up. You're not just a soft creature, Jake. You have fire too. But your kindness, that is the rarest part. He took a deep breath. I didn't mean for this to happen, he said. But now, I wouldn't change it. She stood. Then, with quiet strength, she offered him her hand, not as ruler to subject, not as hunter to prey, but as equal to equal. He took it. They walked together through the starlit garden as soft wind carried alien music from distant towers. Somewhere beyond the palace walls, fireworks bloomed in the sky shaped like wings. Stars and roses. Virel leaned in. You once called me cute. Jake laughed. Still the most dangerous words I ever said. Say them again, she whispered. He looked at her, then smiled. You're cute. She smiled too, but this time, it was different. This time, it meant forever. The end.